Hey math friends. So today we are going to start something new, and this should be review for most of us, but just to make sure that we are clear on it and understand it before we move on. So we are going to talk about rational numbers today, and you guys last year worked on integers on a number line. Today we're going to talk about rational numbers on a number line. So we have these numbers. We have 5, 10, -5, and then 1/5. And we want to know if they're integer, a whole number, or a rational number. So here's how we differentiate between those numbers. A whole number is any number that is not a fraction and it is positive. So that would be 5 and 10. -5, 10, and 5 are what we call integers. So integers are numbers that can, I'm sorry, I can't even spell it. Integers are numbers that are positive or negative, but they can be written without a fraction. So 5, 10, -5, they're all whole numbers, but now we had -5, which is another integer because it has a negative, okay? So whole numbers are positive numbers, integers are positive or negative numbers that don't have a fraction. And then we have what we call rational numbers. A rational number is any number that can be written as a fraction of two whole numbers. So 1 is a whole number, 5 is a whole number. We're going to write that as a fraction, 1/5. So 1/5 is a rational number. 5 can be written, or -5 can be written as -5 over 1, so that is also a rational number. 10 can be written as 10 over 1, so that is also a rational number. And 5 can be written as 5 over 1, so that is also a rational number. So really the whole point in this is rational numbers are pretty much any number that has two whole numbers as a fraction, okay? So let's do a little bit of exploring and then we'll move on from there. So we have these vertical positions of different sea animals, sea mammals, whatever you want to call them. We want to know how far above or below sea level is each animal. So where is sea level at? Well, that's 0. So that's this midline right here where the penguin's at. So the penguin is at 0. And we're going to measure to the eye level of each animal. So let's do this top one. This would assume a seagull. It looks to be about 10. The dolphin looks to be maybe about 2, 2.5. We'll just say 2 for now. The shark seems to be right around maybe -3 because it's below sea level. So above 0 we know is positive. Below sea level is going to be our negative numbers. Then this fish right here, maybe about -7. And then the octopus looks to be about -10. So, second thing, Mobula Ray is 3 meters above the surface of the ocean. So I'm going to put a dot maybe about right here, and we're going to make that 3 meters. How does its distance from the surface of the ocean compare to the vertical distance from the eyes of the dolphin? Okay, so if the dolphin is at 2 and the ray is at 3, what's the difference there? Well, it is 1, right? Okay, so it is +1. It's 1 more than the 2. What about the seagull? Okay, well, the seagull is at 10 and the ray is at 3. Well, what's 10 minus 3? Well, it's 7. It's 7 away from it. And then the octopus is at -10 and our ray is at 3. Well, let's look at this. If our octopus is at -10 and our ray is at 3, we can't just say it's 7 away because we have to go all the way to 0. So that's 7. Excuse me, I'm sorry. That's 10. And then we have to go 3 more to get to that 3. So it's really 13 away from the octopus. okay? And this is just making sure we understand distance on a number line. So let's compare a little bit more. So we have the vertical distance of a new dolphin from the dolphin in the picture is 3 meters. And we said this dolphin is somewhere around 2 meters. So what is the distance from the surface of the ocean? Okay, well, here's the problem. The question does not tell us if the new dolphin, is above the other one or below it. So we're just going to have to pretend we are assuming both. So we could say 3 meters above. So that would be 5 meters. That's not very drawn to scale, is it, guys? Let me try again. So that would be 5 meters, because that's 3 meters above. Or we could do 3 meters below. Well, I know that 2 plus 3 is 5, but what's 2 minus 3? I know that from 2 to 0 is 2 minus 2. How many are left? I have 1 left. If I go 1 more, that's a negative 1. Okay, so the new dolphin could be 5 meters above sea level, or positive 5 meters, or it could be 1 meter below sea level, or negative 1. So that's how we compare those distances and position on that number line. All right. So now let's kind of make sure we know how to plot these. And this is what you guys learned last year, and we're going to make sure that we know this. So we're just going to make sure we know where to find numbers on the number line and where to plot them. So let's look at our number line first. Where is 0? It's right here in the center. So any number to the right is a positive, and it gets bigger the further away from 0. And then any number to the left is negative, and they get bigger the opposite way. Okay, great. So let's plot these numbers. A equals 7. Well, I'm going to find 5, 6, 7. That's A. B, negative 4. I know negative 5 is here. Negative 4 would not be here because that's more negative. That would be negative 6. But negative 4, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4 would be B. C is at 0. That's an easy one. D is at 12. We know 10, 11, 12. And then E is at negative 10. Well, negative 10 is already written for us, and that is E. Now we're going to find the distance between our numbers. Okay, and we know that distance cannot be negative. There's not negative distance. Like the distance between my hands can't be negative because they're going to just overlap and that doesn't work. So let's look at A and D. So I'm going to use different colors for these. So we're going to go from A to D. So from 7 to 12. Well, how do we find distance between these? How many do I go from 7 to 12? I could skip count like this and I would get 5. Or I could just do 12 minus 7 and get 5. So from A to D, it is 5 units. From B to E, B is at negative 4, E is at negative 10. If I were to skip count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I would get 6. Or I know from 4 to 10 going this way, that's 6. And we'll talk about that later. For C, going from D to E. So D is at 12. E is all the way at negative 10. Well, that's a long distance. Okay, so let's look at it. So I got negative 10 and I got 12. I'm sorry. This is 12 for D, negative 10 for E. All right, so for this one, we have to be careful because we're crossing over that 0. How far is it from negative 10 to 0? Well, it's 10 units, right? And then from 0 to 12, well, that's 12. How many total units am I now? So I've got 10 and I've got 12. That gives us 22. So I am 22 units distance between D and E. Okay? All right. So Now we're going to add in our rational numbers, because if you look at it, all of these numbers that we had, A, B, C, D, E, are all integers. They're positive or negative whole numbers, so numbers that don't have a fraction. Now we're going to talk about rational numbers, and they're going to be between different whole numbers or different integer numbers. So negative 3.4 for A. Well, I see 0, I see 1, I see 2, I see 3. Now there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 parts to get to negative 4. So 0.4, so negative 3.1, negative 3.2, negative 3.3, negative 3.4. Well, that doesn't work. Okay, so think about this. 1, a whole number, divided by 5. Well, that gives me 0.2. Okay, so this would be, if I did this, it would be negative 3.2. Here, negative 3.4, negative 3.6, negative 3.8, and then 0.2 more would give me negative 4. And I know you can't see my handwriting well, but just want to make sure we get that. We're counting by 0.2. Great. So negative 3.4 would be right here, and that would be A. Okay, great. B, 2.5. Well, 2 and 3, I know it's between 2 and 3, and it's right between them, so it's not going to be 0.2 or 0.4 or 0.6, it's going to be in between. So 2.5 is B. Now C, 10 thirds. I need to make this a decimal. 10 divided by 3 is 3 1/3, or 3.33. Okay, great. So let me find 3 and 4, and I'm looking for 1/3. And I know this is 0.2, this is 0.4, so it's going to be somewhere between 0.2 and 0.4 for C. And then D, negative 21 over 5. Well, I know that 20 divided by 5 is 4, and then I have 1/5 left over, which is 0.2. But I don't need to forget my negative symbol. So negative 4.2. All right, and we know that we're counting by 0.2, and this was negative 4, so negative 4.2 is D. Okay? And the point of this is to make sure that you can put fractions or decimals on that number line. So you have to figure out what it is counting by on the number line, and then make your fractions into decimals and place those correctly. And the last thing we're going to go over is how to compare rational numbers. Now, think about this. If I have the number negative 5 and I have the number negative 3, 5 is bigger than 3, right? Let me write them over here. Negative 5, negative 3. 5 is bigger than 3, but we're talking about negative numbers. So on a number line, if I've got 0, I've got negative 3, I've got negative 5, which one is actually further to the right? So if I had 3 and 5, 5 would be bigger because it's further to the right. But negative 5 and negative 3 is larger because it's less negative, is how we say it. It's less negative, okay? All right, so we're going to put a greater than, less than, or equal to symbol to compare these. Now, if it doesn't have a negative, you should know how to compare them. So for A, 4.99, 5.01, which number is larger? 5.01. The alligator's mouth is always pointing to the bigger number. It wants to eat the bigger number. That's how we always learn it. All right, so B, 4.37, negative 10.75. Now, which number is bigger? 10.75 is the bigger magnitude, right? There's more of that, but it's a more negative. So 4.37 is actually the larger number. All right, for C, I have two fractions, and those are kind of difficult. We could create equivalent fractions, or we could just simplify these. 24 divided by 3 gives me 8. 16 divided by 2 gives me 8. Well, these are equal, actually. And then for D, negative 1.8, negative 5.65. So if this is 0, I know negative 1.8 is here, negative 5.65 is here. Which one of those is less negative? 1.8. Negative 1.8 is less negative, so it is the larger number or the greater value. Okay, so what you're going to do for practice today, you guys are going to work on just making sure that you know how to plot numbers and just give a roundabout. You know that this would be about 0.5. And then for 6, you're going to compare them. Make sure you pay attention to those negatives and those fractions. And then this is just a multiple choice question to make sure you understand those negative numbers. Okay?